Hey yo guys, I'm here to give you my UFC 95 review as well as my top-ranked boxing pay-per-view review with Miguel Cotto versus Michael Jennings, as well as Pavlik versus Marco Antonio Rubio. Gotta say, with the UFC show, for a free TV show, and a lot of people are, hating on and shitting on, what have you. This show really was good, a really good show. I can't say great, as I've seen, a lot of great shows as of late, in the realms of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, what have you. I've seen a lot of great shows recently, so I can't really say this is a great show, but it was a really good show. It was worth the value of it being free. I mean, I don't know how this wouldn't have done well buy rate-wise. Didn't have a lot of superstars or what have you, which a lot of people want, what have you. And, a lot of pay-per-view really is all about the superstars and people really want to see, so this didn't have it. But for free TV show, really good, a lot of finishes, which, is always exciting, and having only one decision victory, and that went to Paul Kelly. I believe that one aired for sure over here in Canada on Rogers Sportsnet, but I'm not sure if that aired on Spike. I did not watch the Spike broadcast because that was at the same time the Top Rank boxing pay-per-view was going on, and I gotta say, this show was good. I mean, it went how I expected it to go with the superstars, and Miguel Cotto and Kelly Pavlik making their comeback, proving that, their losses are now behind them, and that, in Pavlik's case, that, he's back in the weight class where he should be, and will be a dominating force, and take a very long time for someone to defeat him for his WBO Middleweight Championship. As well, Miguel Cotto proved that, he's shooken off the loss, the time he had off from the loss from Margarito, paid dividends, and he was up there against, probably an inexperienced fighter up, against the big league type fighters, and, he just overwhelmed them. It was probably the adrenaline of, not being back, and Puerto Rican fans behind him in Madison Square Garden, so that had to be behind it, but it just went how I expected there. But anyways, let's get to my review of the UFC 95 show. As I saw this as it aired live on Rogers Sportsnet. A lot of, like I said, a lot of good fights, a lot of decisive finishes. So anyways, let's get to the review. We started things off on the live portion with Josh Koscheck versus the debuting Paulo Thiago. Thiago, really, this was more of a stand-up, let's see how things go out. First fight, they were standing up, trying to feel each other out. Koscheck was dictating, the feeling out process portion, where he would throw, a jab, some leg kicks, what have you. He was just dictating it, and, Paulo Thiago really did absolutely nothing, because he knew he wanted to get to the fight to the ground, but he probably knew that Koscheck's great wrestling would have, escaped, and we'd be back up in a stand-up stalemate. But that didn't happen, as I find it very interesting that Joe Rogan's just absolutely dissing Paulo Thiago's stand-up, saying, he's not doing anything, he should, really try and go for something, take it to the ground, or at least, throw some punches and kicks. Well, as he says this, Paulo Thiago throws a combination and hits Koscheck right on the chin, drops Koscheck. He is out like a light. Referee stops the fight. Some people are saying that this is an early stoppage. I will completely disagree. Koscheck's eyes were in the back of his head for, at least 3 seconds. That's good enough to stop it in my mind. I'd rather have a referee stop it too soon, where the fighter is out and, doesn't need any more damage, and then, too late when, risks severe injury down the line. So good stoppage there. Paulo Thiago makes, a highlight reel appearance in his debut. Would like to see him maybe be a little more active at the start of a fight. I understand the feeling out process, but, do something, so you can, be on more main cards, because, with this UFC, and, rightfully so, if you're not entertaining at the beginning portions of a fight or what have you, if you're not entertaining, you're on the bottom, and, you're just designated to web fights, so, and that's not really good for marketing yourself. So, Paulo Thiago, maybe that, but still, you've got a highlight reel knockout. A great way to start off your UFC debut by knocking off someone with a big, following with Josh Koscheck. Then we went to the next fight, which was, the returning Chael Sonnen versus Demian Maia. And to me, if you're ever going to make a bet on an MMA fight and you see Demian Maia on the card, Demian Maia is your lock-it-up pick. Definitely take Demian Maia because, like I said in my predictions, Sonnen's strength is wrestling. He did not take Maia to the ground, and eventually Maia would take him down whether Sonnen liked it or not, and that's exactly what happened. The way he took him down was really awesome, I thought, where, he did this overhead, belly-to-belly overhead suplex, kind of like a Steiner botch, but I'll give Maia the break because this is not a work, as pro wrestling is, where Steiner can't even throw AJ Styles, who is someone who you should just throw him no problem, as, we all know about Styles, but, Sonnen kind of tried to block it, but, the force and the strength that Maia has, I guess, and he just, his face hits the mat, and then, Sonnen puts him in, or excuse me, Maia puts him in a, I believe, triangle choke and gets the submission. Beautiful jiu-jitsu work, beautiful grappling. Maia proves that he is, a top fighter on the ground. Still needs to work out on the stand-up, as, Sonnen, and a lot of people prove that. That's his only chink in his armory, is his stand-up. If he keeps the stand-up, improvement, and, can rattle actually a knockout victory or something of that sort, then, maybe you can throw him to Anderson Silva, because I think he's some legit competition for Anderson Silva. But he's got to work on that stand-up, whether it's kickboxing and striking. That's where he has to work on. He's a wizard on the ground. There needs to be no need. But, Sonnen made it a fight. He lasted, pretty well. Not the best I've seen someone last with Maia. I still have to give that to Jason the Athlete McDonald, who, was actually able to wrestle well with Maia and avoid, some of the submission attempts, eventually getting caught as he got tired. But Sonnen did a pretty good job, and, Maia proves that he should be the lock-it-up pick. Anyways, then we went to the next fight, which was the #1 contender fight, and this was the great Marquardt versus Wilson Gouveia. In a really good fight, I have to say that both men, really knew what they were fighting for. The first round was, kind of a tough one to see, but I gave the advantage to Marquardt, as, Marquardt just did a little bit more, better combinations, better kicks, what have you. That's how I saw this one going. Second round, and then that just ended the fight, really, as, Marquardt pulled away. He absolutely started to pick apart Wilson Gouveia, with his combinations, with his leg kicks, what have you. I gave it a 10-9, but it could have been a 10-8 round. And then he finishes Gouveia in the third with, a spinning back elbow and, some punches and, just rocks. Gouveia cuts him open. Gouveia goes down. Ref stops the fight. Really strong performance there. I was very surprised to see how awesome Nate the Great Marquardt was in absolutely decimating Wilson Gouveia. So it looks like it'll be a rematch. Nate the Great Marquardt gets his rematch with Anderson Silva, something he wanted. And, really, I believe it's ATT, they really don't need to be making predictions about fights, because Thiago Silva made a prediction that he was going to knock out Leo. That didn't happen. Wilson Gouveia makes the prediction that he was going to knock out Nate the Great Marquardt in the first round. Well, that didn't happen, so they should stop doing that, as that seems to be their undoing. Especially against elite fighters like, a Machida and a Marquardt. That's just me, but I'm really looking forward to that fight, as this is a completely different Nate Marquardt that fought Anderson Silva the last time, so that should be a really interesting fight after Silva gets past Latees. So that's my thoughts there. And then here on the show, we got to see some prelim fights. Obviously, in between here, we got to see the Junior Dos Santos fight, where he, absolutely decimated his opponent, who I'm trying to remember his name at the moment. It was Stefan Struve. Yes, Stefan Struve. And, Struve, a tall guy. If I was him, I would have thrown some leg kicks or something, because, I didn't think his striking would be that good, especially against Dos Santos, who like to, fight in close, and, tall fighters in close is never good. I don't know, Struve, to me, I just had memories of Sid Vicious. Just bad memories like that. To me, I think Struve's in the wrong sport. I think Stefan Struve should be playing basketball. He'd be a great center, getting some rebounds, whatever. But I don't think he should be an MMA fighter. I don't know. He really didn't prove anything at all. But then again, he's against Junior Dos Santos, just absolutely overwhelmed him, Struve, and decimated him. Punch after punch, and wore him down, rocked him like 3 times within a minute with a couple of combinations, and that was it. Then we went to see the next fight, which was Evan Dunham versus Per Hoechlin. Hoechlin gets rocked with, a leg kick early in the fight. Wobbled. He got wobbled on that. Hoechlin kind of got it together, but then after that, Dunham, takes him down and, starts to ground and pound him, and, the ref stops it as, Hoechlin kind of taps out there. And Evan Dunham looked very impressive here. We also got to see Terry Etim and Brian Cobb on. Really, an interesting part in this fight was you had Cobb mounted Etim there, and he started, to work on the body from a mount, and the ref stood him up, and I'm absolutely baffled at this decision. Like, why? Like, Cobb was working. It wasn't like they were just, laying and praying on there. Cobb was working. Why would we need the stand-up? I don't understand that. That's just me. It's the stand-up, and it just allowed, Terry Etim to, get, start picking apart Brian Cobb there. And then he ends it with, a leg kick, a head kick, and then he finishes him on the ground. Pretty good win there for Terry Etim, but I still feel that, if this had been on the ground, Brian Cobb would have probably, maybe ground and pounded a submission or got a submission out of it. So that's just my thoughts there. And then we went to the next fight, which was aired live, which was Rory Markham versus Dan Hardy. This was interesting as, both guys are trying to been baiting each other into a stand-up battle. We got that. This was another kind of like kickboxing, boxing type fight, which a lot of the fights on this card were. Both guys were just out there, standing and, waiting for their moment. Both guys were at least throwing combinations, what have you, but Dan Hardy just nails Rory Markham with a flash knockout, knocks him out, probably wins knockout of the night. In my knockout of the night. The O2 Arena goes crazy as Dan Hardy is from the UK. Big victory there. He looks really impressive in the lightweight division. I'm looking for more big things for Dan Hardy. And then we went to the main event, fight of the night, in Diego the Nightmare Sanchez making his debut at lightweight versus Joe Daddy Stevenson. Really, this was a good fight. A little better than would be. I was really impressed with, Joe Stevenson's, will to win in this one, as, he started, dictate, try and push the pressure in the beginning, with the better stand-up, but eventually Diego just took over, because his stand-ups rapidly improved, better combinations, better knees. Eventually when this fight would go to the ground, Diego would have the advantage. Some people gave the third round to Stevenson, probably just because it was, a change-up round, as, Diego didn't do enough of what he did in the previous rounds to win it, but I still gave, all 3 rounds to Diego. Diego wins the fight. Very impressive. I've heard some people on some forums say, now we can get rid of Joe Stevenson as he can't fight elite fighters. Really, I think the UFC needs to keep Joe Stevenson. He's a really good fighter. He's now officially a gatekeeper of the lightweight division. Like, if you want to be an elite star, you got to go through Joe Stevenson. And really, Joe may not like that. That's pretty impressive that, you're a tough opponent to get to. If the UFC thinks you're a star, they're going to put you against you. You're going to be an up-and-coming star. They're going to put against you to see if you are up to what they believe. I mean, hell, look, Heath Herring's made a career out of that, so there's nothing to be ashamed of, Joe. So, he fought a strong fight, and there's no reason the UFC should, because, it's not like Joe did nothing in the fight. That's when you get rid of people, when they do nothing and don't care, or, keep stringing up losses. And, Joe's losses are to BJ Penn, Kenny Florian, and now Diego Sanchez. So, it's not like he's losing to bottom feeders. He's losing to elite competition, so that's just my thought there. I'm going to defend Joe Stevenson at all on this one. I thought Joe fought well. Joe's an exciting fighter. Why would the UFC want to make a cut on someone like that? I have no clue. But overall, it was a really good show. I'd give it a thumbs up. Please, in the comments on the feedback for, both shows, list what did you think was the best fight, what have you, fight of the night, overall thoughts, if you want to do submission and knock it out of the night, what have you. Well, clearly submission of the night goes to Maia, as he's the only submission of the night. But yeah, overall it was a strong card. Then we move over to the Top Rank boxing show with Miguel Cotto and Kelly Pavlik fighting, both from states, but what have you, whatever. Anyways, I'll start things off here with a Cotto versus Michael Jennings for the vacant, I believe this is for the vacant WBC and WBO championships, whatever, what have you. Anyways, really, Cotto came out to a superstar reaction like you would expect. Jennings, this is his first fight with, a big opponent in, Miguel Cotto. So anyways, the fight, when we started out, Cotto isn't as relaxed. He really was, uneven going in. He tried to, establish the jab early on, which he did. But, you know, Cotto finally got going once at the end of the second round. You know, Jennings threw some punches, and they really had no effect on, you know, he threw some good combinations and, you know, some good punches that connected, but they just had no effect on Miguel Cotto. And then, you know, I believe fourth round, Cotto gets going. You know, he starts, you know, a strong right hand, rocks Jennings, and then he goes to work on the body, dropping Jennings. Once again, the same thing happens again later, a couple seconds later, goes to work on the body. Jennings takes a knee, and then, you know, from then on, you just know the fight's over. We go into the sixth, and, you know, Cotto just rocks him again with more body work and head. Jennings goes down. He gets counted out. Miguel Cotto reestablishes himself in his home away from home as still someone to be reckoned with. And how can you not disagree with that? I mean, Miguel Cotto is still, you know, a top-tier fighter, and he proves this. Yeah, maybe he was up against someone that, you know, had all the odds in the world to... had, you know, all the odds against him, I should say, the card stacked against him, but he still was able to get the job done there. And, you know, then we went over to the next fight, which was Kelly Pavlik taking on Marco Antonio Rubio for the WBO Middleweight Championship. And once again, much of the same. Kelly's back in his weight class, in his division where he belongs, and he's now the dominating reckoning force there. He absolutely decimates Rubio round by round. You know, he had the ring presence, he had the nations. He was able to, you know, back Rubio into the corner, fighting him against the ropes, while Rubio was in the ropes, I should say, which is where he wanted him. He just did whatever he wanted to do to Marco Antonio Rubio. Rubio just never turned it on in the fight at all. Like, this was, as Nick Charles said on commentary, which I would fully agree, this was like a sparring session. He was out there, you know, whenever he wanted to throw the jab, he'd throw the jab. If he wanted to throw the cross. If you want to go to work on the body, go work on the body. I mean, Rubio did nothing. Rubio absolutely did nothing. He gets decimated here. He looked really tired in the later portions of the round. And I believe, you know, Rubio quits then going into the ninth. Either the ninth or 10th, Rubio quits. And in all honesty, that's a smart move, as Rubio had no hope in hell on any scorecard. He looked tired. He looked defeated. So why go in there and risk, you know, more injury? So that was a strong, you know, performance from Kelly Pavlik. Youngstown, Ohio was on fire. The crowd was hot there, just like it was in the Garden. Really, I enjoyed the card overall. I gotta say that Charley Steiner made maybe the greatest botch I've seen all year to kick things off. If you've seen the pay-per-view, you know what I'm saying, as Charley Steiner and Al Burns. Charley Steiner introduces Al Burns. He goes, Al... He's trying to make this comparison to Rocky Marciano and Kelly Pavlik, but he can't remember the name. He goes, so Al, Sugar Ray, no. And he's just trying to sit in there, like there's dead air on this pay-per-view. And he's just trying to think, he can't think of an Al Bernstein. Thank God for Al, because Al saves the day. He goes, you mean Rocky Marciano? He's like, yes, thank you. Anyway, I just thought that was hysterical. Not a way you want to start off your pay-per-view. I mean, it makes your announcer look like he doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever. You know, Steiner recovered and did a pretty good job on commentary, but to me, I still think, you know, his work was definitely helped by Al Bernstein, because I think anyone you put Al Bernstein with, it's going to be great. Anyways, it was an interesting show. I mean, it went how I expected. Was it the greatest night of fights? Not really. Part of the... from Madison Square Garden that we got to see on the show. I actually had a pretty exciting fight on it, though. I'm trying to remember the names here. Frick, who was it? Sorry about this. Oh, yes, it was John Dundee and Matt Vandana. That was a pretty exciting fight with, you know, Joe, you know, winning the whole fight, basically, and then Vandana just coming back, you know, making an interesting fight. I thought that was good. But anyways, just quickly, before I get out of here, tonight is the Oscars. Hopefully you guys check it out, because there is the strongest chance that Mickey Rourke may win an Oscar for his performance in The Wrestler. He won a Spirit Award yesterday. He's on the ABC poll for who should win Best Actor. He is the runner. He's running away with the poll. So I'm really excited for Rourke to potentially win here. You know, I mean, it proves that, you know, his career's come back, and this is obviously now officially the greatest wrestling movie of all time. I know Marissa Tomei is up for Best Supporting Actress or what have you, but she probably won't win, as I think that'll probably go to Penelope Cruz, what have you. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. I mean, this is probably the most jazzed I've ever been for the Oscars. I really don't care. Still, I'm tuning in just to see if Mickey Rourke can get the victory there. I know they had Ric Flair on CBS to hype it up. Flair put on a hell of a performance, man, I might say. You know, he broke down and cried, what have you. Whatever, I mean, it's just Flair being, putting on a nice little show, what have you, to get, this movie over even more. And I guess quickly, before I go, thoughts on TNA releasing Sanchez. Really, did we expect this? Yes. I knew they were going to probably release Dutt ever since his feud with Jay Lethal went absolutely nowhere. Really, we could tell that since this feud started back at Slammiversary, they had really no hope. Dutt had no hope, as they made him look like a fool with all the legends beating him down. A stupid gimmick match, which in my opinion was the worst wet match of 2008. And then, pretty good ladder match, but they did nothing after the feud. So, how else could Dutt go? Really, could Dutt go to WWE? Maybe he could be, a funny sidekick with Great Khali, helping the WWE product be strong in India, because that's what Dutt was. I mean, Impact was a pretty strong show in the Indian market there, but now with Dutt gone, I don't know how well he'll do. But anyways, before I go, definitely leave your opinion for UFC 95 and the top-ranked boxing pay-per-view. What did you think was the best fight? What did you think was the worst fight? Overall feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. Was it good? Was it bad? I would like to know your opinion. Some thoughtful stuff going in there. And if you still want to send questions, you know the drill. YouTube inbox or email or MySpace inbox, what have you. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.